AI. I love AI. I love Micron. I love ARM Holdings. I love Super Microcomputer. I love so many of the things on the AI side of it. But what else is there out there? Well, that's the job of people like Anthony Scaramucci and Jon Najarian to go out there and figure, okay, it's really thirsty for energy. So what does that mean? That means I need something like clean energy, like nuclear. I'm going to invest like crazy. These stocks are up as much as NVIDIA is up. Camco, which is a uranium producer, it's up 7x, 7 times what the price that it was just a couple years ago.
All right. So joining us now on Speak Up, a very dear friend. You know, Najarian, I tell people that I just met you because I'm lying about my age. But if I were telling the truth, almost a quarter century of a love affair between the Najarians and the Scaramuccis. But I want to welcome you to the show. You're the CEO and founder of Market Rebellion with your brother Pete. And I understand you just added Grant Cardone, a mutual friend of ours, is now an owner and investor in your company. So congratulations. Let's get started. Tell us where
Anthony. Thank you.
Tell us where you're zooming in from, because I think it'll have some interest to our viewers and listeners.
I am on the trading floor of Cboe Global Markets. Used to be known as the Chicago Board Option Exchange. Now Cboe Global Markets, publicly traded entity, billions and billions of dollars in market cap. And they own, I think, 22 or 23, they're always buying somebody, exchanges around the world, Anthony. So they stretch from, I believe, Japan all the way across the US through Europe and so forth. So an awful lot of trading goes on at Cboe Global Markets, and my hat's off to them for letting us shoot here live today. It's fantastic.
All right. Oh, I love it. I love the background. You were generous to me once in Chicago, where you gave me the tour of all these great places. You also introduced me to my fellow Italian, Rick Santelli. So I owe you that as well. I want to talk about your interest in investing, coming out of what you did prior to that. Give us your odyssey into investing. Then I want to go into the markets.
Sure. Well, as Anthony knows, folks, I started off as a linebacker for the Chicago Bears. So the investment there was how not to get hurt. I spent a lot of time trying to compete with Mike Singletary for the linebacker job. I got to play in 4 games in 1981. I got cut, but I loved this city and Chicago, and I lived here for 40 years after that, and was just lucky enough, Anthony, that I was in a city where it had a vibrant trading community. So I went down onto the trading floor after I got cut and really fell in love with not just the city, the people, but also the idea of the adrenaline. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I surf, I ski fast, and I really enjoy the adrenaline pump that you get, that dopamine hit or whatever it is from trading. And so do I trade just for the sake of trading? No, just like you. I trade stocks, options, futures, cryptocurrencies. I'll trade almost anything, but that doesn't mean I'm a gambler. I am a trader and an investor, again, just like you, Anthony. And I have morphed as Skybridge has, folks, because, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, would I have thought that I'd ever be trading cryptocurrency? No. Right. But that's one of the big, it's one of the big hits that you've had. I mean, Skybridge has absolutely crushed it because of cryptocurrency, not just because of your, Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brother prowess, Anthony, but because of you were willing to adapt and adopt. And that's what I've done for 42 years in my investing career.
John, it was scary and it was painful. And I'm going to show you something that I think you'll get a kick out of. And this is for viewers and listeners. This is stuff. These are notes that I wrote to myself in 2022 when I was dying. Okay. And this is a note to self. When you're having a bad time in life, pick up the phone and call your friends like Jon Najarian. Okay. And so you were always kind to me in my rough moments of my career. And I think it's very important for people to remember they can get through these rough moments as investors or as people.
Yep.
You built a number of very successful businesses. You love the options markets.
Hmm.
You've invited people to learn about those through you and your brother. You've put out books related to this. Please give us a sense for why you love the options markets and why should individual investors be attracted to options.
Sure, happy to. Number one, they can define their risk when they enter. When you buy a stock or a crypto for that matter, you have unlimited upside and limited only to zero on the downside. And most of us need to pay more attention to those risks rather than the potential rewards. So when you buy an option, that's all you can lose. So you're just trading a somewhat perpetual instrument like a stock or a crypto. You're trading that for something with a defined time frame. Maybe it's a 1 week option, maybe it's a 6 month option, maybe it's a 1 year option. But you can define your risk when you enter the trade rather than saying, gosh, I'm really feeling the pain. I think I should get out now. As we both know, if you did that in 2022, you got out for $18,000 per Bitcoin. And then they rocketed this year to $73,000 or higher. So you don't want the market to take you out. You want to decide when you're going to exit. And you get these blinders on, Anthony, when you're experiencing those losses. Sometimes the loss is, a personal loss, like a father, a brother, whatever. Other times it's financial loss. And those blinders keep you from seeing all the other good things that you could be doing at that moment. So options, I think, let me define my risk and let me get a leveraged return on my investments so that I'm not just making, 3%, 4%. Those are great, but I want to make 30%, 100%, or 10x, those kinds of things. And you can do that with options.
How many years you doing this, Jon Najarian? How many years?
Well, I started in 1981. So
Okay.
for an awful lot of you watching Anthony's show here on Wealthion, that is a long time. Uh, 42 years, 43 years, that's a long time. This will be my 43rd year in October. And I'm delighted to be doing it still. I'm excited by it. Again, there are always things that I can morph into. I can trade options on Bitcoin or Ethereum. I can trade futures on those. I can trade and ride the NVIDIA and AI wave. I mean, all of that is exciting to me, Anthony. And as you know, we get to basically tie in any news in the world, whether it's politics, whether it's commodities, whatever news that's happening in the world, it's impacting one of the stocks that you and I trade. And that's what makes it also interesting and keeps your brain, rolling along rather than just turning into mush.
But I'm saying this for a reason, though, Jon. You had the enthusiasm of a 25-year-old that just entered the space.
Mhm.
So what's the lesson there? How do you keep yourself game ready? How do you keep yourself enthused? For me, it's always the newness of the markets. I feel like you and I are in the business of constant evolvement and constant understanding of the shifting currents of business. But what is it for you?
Um, it is that it's applying whatever the expertise that, again, professional traders like Anthony and I have accumulated skills over these years. To use the Liam Neeson quote from Taken or whatever, I've acquired a certain set of skills that make me very dangerous to people like you. um, I love the idea that I can be excited by the different angles that I can attack a given investment, Anthony. So, for instance, AI. I love AI. I love Micron. I love ARM Holdings. I love Super Microcomputer. I love so many of the things on the AI side of it. But what else is there out there? Well, that's the job of people like Anthony Scaramucci and Jon Najarian, to go out there and figure, okay, it's really thirsty for energy. So what does that mean? That means I need something like clean energy, like nuclear. I'm going to invest like crazy. These stocks are up as much as NVIDIA is up. Camco, which is a uranium producer, it's up 7x, 7 times what the price that it was just a couple years ago. I'm going to be buying a lot of that. I'm going to be buying a lot of NNE. This is a micro nuclear reactor. And some people might say, micro nuclear reactor, what about terrorists and things? Nuclear energy is very safe, super clean, but of course, there are issues. And one of the issues is, to get these things permitted takes decades. To get them built takes decades. Well, so what if you had something that's the size of a Generac generator? In other words, a large file cabinet that could basically generate all the power you need for a facility like the one behind me, the one that I'm sitting in right here, SIBO Global Markets. What if you could do that? That's what a lot of these companies do, Anthony. So data centers, VRT and these big data centers, those are the areas that I'm exploring and that I'm investing in because of AI, because I know the boom's going to keep carrying us. I know a lot of the men and women behind me that are trading are buying and selling power and energy. And I think that is one of the picks and shovels that's necessary for AI to be successful. And it will be successful. Unfortunately, it'll hit a lot of jobs too. So we need to be thinking about that when we're investing in AI, that this is something that's going to take a lot of jobs away from people that otherwise might not have as many choices as you and I have had, Anthony.
When you think of the future of investing,
Mm-hmm.
or is it you and me up against the computer, or you and I going to be on the beach and let my computer work against your computer? What happens to the world of investing as we start to introduce AI into so many aspects of commerce and business? And I'll point this out, John, because I want to talk about politics with you for a second.
Oh no!
The the 80-year-old men that were debating each other 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
not one question came up related to AI. And you and I know that AI is going to be a multiple force factor in this economy over the
Yep.
next 20 years. We got to have people in those seats that are willing to at least embrace and understand it and have some policy direction behind it. But go ahead. What happens to the world of investing when AI gets into the mix?
Well, and we're doing that right now. We bought a brokerage, Anthony, called Sogo Trade, and we're incorporating a big AI company that we'll have a big announcement in a couple weeks about it. AI can do so much in terms of, yeah, could Anthony and John just be sitting there on the beach? Yes. All we got to do is basically tell the AI what to look for, what sorts of opportunities, how much do you want to make on a trade? Obviously, the longer you hold on, the more risk there is, because do you need that AI to be rolling up and out, taking profits off the table, and then pushing those investments out into the future? Maybe so. But you and I competing against computers, we never could. We can't. But the computer really is just doing what we've programmed it to do. Now, AI, yeah, that takes it to another level, because AI is pulling from all these sources of information around the world. So AI would know before we do, that Kazakhstan just put a big premium on, for instance, uranium extraction in their country. What does that mean? Well, supply and demand still drives prices. So if you have less supply and more demand, I can tell you where the prices are going. So AI could figure that out faster than you and I could. And AI would be reacting to that last night when that came out, rather than today during the day after these uranium stocks have popped, just as one example.
Right. Good point. All right. So we're both crypto enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me what's going on in the crypto markets. What's going on with Bitcoin? Feels like Bitcoin hit a wall just above 70,000. It's backed
Mm-hmm.
off into the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Should I be worried about that as a crypto investor? Should I be buying here? What's your thoughts?
Well, just like you, and I keep saying that in this interview, folks, but there's only this much separation between Jon and Anthony and how
Oh,
we have
there
grown in
isn't.
our
You're
careers.
like 6 feet taller than me, and you have 50 pounds more muscle than me. You're the type of guy that if I walked into a bar, I say, "Where is that guy's girlfriend? I got to stay as far away from her as possible, so I don't end up through the window of the bar." But go ahead.
Um, when I'm looking at uh, what's going on in the markets and things like that, I really focus in on um, risk versus reward. Like I said at the top, I think that's one of the most important things that we have to do is focus on that risk versus reward. Um, you should always ask yourself, folks, how much can I lose? Not how much can I make? Because we can make money and a monkey can make money. My dad was a surgeon and he used to say, Anthony, I can teach a monkey to do surgery, but it's knowing what to do, especially when things go wrong.
I'll
Um,
remember that, Najarian. The next time I have a surgery, I'll be thinking of the
yeah, you'll be
primate
thinking
cutting into
about
me.
exactly. But I think that there's so many angles that we could take with investing and with crypto. I think crypto, I was a seller over 70. I've bought it back last week when it broke down to 55 or 54. I never buy the bottom, I never sell the top. So I'm not telling you that I did that, folks. I sold it a little over 70. I bought it back at like 58 on that short position. And now, would I be adding in the mid 50s? Yes, I would. We're talking about Bitcoin to USD, to the US dollar, folks. Yes, I would. But I do think that the Mt. Gox issue is a big issue. I think that we've got Mt. Gox, those coins, $9 billion worth of Bitcoin that was on those, on Mt. Gox, on that exchange, if you will. They're going to be given back to the people that rightfully owned them. They've been locked up for a decade as all this works its way through the courts. So, do I think that that's pressuring? I think at least people believe that it is pressuring the markets because many of those people own these coins from pennies, maybe even single digit dollars, and now it's $57,000. Would you think that some of those people would be so grateful to finally get their coins back that they might be taking profits? That would be what I would think, Anthony. And I think that's the overhead pressure that's pushing down on Bitcoin at this time. And the sentiment that that could be happening, whether it does or doesn't, that's the sentiment right now.
Okay. Up against that, though, let me get you to react to this. There's 16 or so billion dollars of cash that's going to be dumped on FTX. These are the former account holders of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's firm. What say you to that?
Well, again, giving people what was rightfully theirs. And unfortunately, um, uh, you know, I try not to leave my coins on any exchange, folks. I made a mistake and did some of that with the FTX situation. Shame on me for doing that. But now that those of us who did that are getting some, probably not all, but some of that money back, um, again, that was when Bitcoin was in the, certainly less than 30, and it was in the mid to low 20s and falling when Sam failed. And it was failing because, people just didn't believe that one of the biggest exchanges on earth for cryptocurrency could possibly be a fraud. And unfortunately, that's what he was convicted of. So I'll call him a fraud.
Right.
Hopefully, most of us get a very good portion of our money back. I know you were a big believer in him, Anthony,
I
and
was. I mean,
certainly,
I
certainly I
sold a
was
piece
too.
of my business to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was too. So unfortunately, and a bunch of big Silicon Valley firms like Sequoia and others were big believers in Sam. He played a great game, and he made it look like he really was everything that people projected onto him. Brilliant young kid out of MIT. He's making money hand over fist, all this kind of stuff. My best advice to folks is make sure that if you're trading cryptos, that you do it in your own hardware or software wallet. You take it off the exchange. You don't leave it on the exchange wherever you're trading. And that for those of you who only trade stocks and options, there are now those ETFs. Great. You can have those and hold those at Fidelity, at Morgan, at Goldman, at virtually every big firm. And I would say that's safe, but leaving your crypto on an exchange, not a good idea.
Okay, I mean this is like really good practical advice for investors. Where is an opportunity right now that's actionable that you're looking at saying, okay, if I was a investor today at a little bit excess cash, this is what I would do in the markets?
It would be energy, Anthony.
Okay.
Again, what I just cited about Kazakhstan, that occurred just yesterday, the 10th of July, folks. So this is new news. This is an area where they do extract uranium. Canada is also a big area where they extract a lot of uranium. So is the United States. But energy is going to be in higher and higher demand. AI is super hungry for energy. These data centers where AI is running pull between 11 and 17 times as much energy as you doing a simple search on your own through Google or whatever. When you ask AI, whether it's Chat GPT 6 or whatever it is that you're using, whether it's Claude over at Google, all of those things are extremely intense with their demand for energy. You couple that with EVs, and even though they slowed down, the growth of EV expansion slowed down dramatically in 2024, it's not over. But all of that demand for power means that energy is where the number one place to invest right now. More than gold, more than Bitcoin, energy.
All right. I appreciate it. I think this is stuff that people are looking for. I'm going to turn it over to the audience. So we got a ton of questions for you, Jon.
Okay.
Do you have any data or reliable information on how much Bitcoin is being used as a currency in exchange for value in the US and worldwide? So, of course, we know it is being used as a currency in exchange for value in El Salvador, 7 million people there, up now to 22% use case. So it's being adopted. What other places are you aware of?
Quite frankly, most of what I see from people that I talk with, people that are involved with uh, minting coins and so forth, the so-called altcoins and so forth, uh, most of them are looking at Bitcoin in particular, Ethereum as well, as investments, not as currency. And so, Anthony, I would say I know of very few people that want to use Bitcoin as a currency. Most of them want to use it as a store of value. And I think for that, it is because, again, we printed how many $trillion in the last 2 decades? We have printed a massive amount of money. And again, supply and demand. So if you print that much money, what's the value of that money? It goes down. That's why Bitcoin was created, because there can only be 21 million coins total produced unless a majority of the coin holders decide that they want more. And I don't believe they will. I think they'll want to keep this in limited supply. And that's why Bitcoin, to me, is a store of value, not a currency.
Okay, that's Rich from Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you, Rich. What's the point of stable coins like the USD coin? Is it just a knockoff of the dollar? This is James from Staten Island.
Yes, James, you know the answer already, and it is yes. Um, is it something that you're going to invest in to make money? Of course not. But when you flip out of any of the digital assets that Anthony and I trade through either Market Rebellion, Sogo Trade, Skybridge, whatever, you don't want to flip all the way back out to the dollar, because then in order to invest again, you've got to convert back in. And every time you convert, folks, you lose a little bit. Why? Because somebody's got to get paid. So instead, once you're in digital assets, it makes all the more sense to flip over into Tether, to flip over into various stable coins when you want to be on the sidelines. And then when you want to buy, whether it's Ethereum whether it's Solana, whether it's Bitcoin, you can jump back in at that level. But the last thing you want to do is jump back into the dollar. On top of everything else, I believe my personal opinion is you're creating a taxable event when you do that. And I'd rather not do that, even though, Anthony, as you know, I live in Puerto Rico, where we have 0% capital gains.
Well, I mean, I think the only thing I would add for James is that that stable coin is going to dramatically improve international commerce, because at some point, as that stable coin, and we eventually get a stable coin regulation. And I was at an event last night and yesterday morning in Washington, where there's a very big push, Mark Cuban, myself, Mike Novogratz, to push crypto to be bipartisan. I have differences with Donald Trump, but I will applaud Donald Trump for seeing the need for Bitcoin to be part of the U.S. economic story, part of the U.S. economic innovation growth story. And I would say that Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler failed the country by trying to block something that's going to happen with or without the United States. And
I
so
agree.
when this coin gets uh, greater establishment, you'll be able to, in a lightning fast sort of a way, wire it around the world. That's happening, whether the banks want it or not. And so, yes, it's just a knockoff on the dollar, but it will have technical efficiencies that will make our transaction speeds faster and our transaction costs lower. Let's go to the next question. What's your take on Biden dropping out? This is Danielle from Long Island. And so, do you want to go first on that?
Sure. It seems as if he should. I don't feel as safe as I did prior to that debate, even though I thought that he was slowing down a lot. I had no idea how much he had slowed down. And now, after hearing what George Clooney and a number of other people that are close to him have said, George raised $30 million for him 3 weeks ago. And apparently, a lot of people at that fundraiser said that they really had questions about the president even then, before the debate. So I worry about that because, again, right back to the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump question, what about that 11 p.m. call or that 2 a.m. call? I don't want this guy making that decision. I don't think he's in a good spot to make that decision. But I will say, Anthony, that again, with my energy focus as it is, the last thing we need is to limit American energy independence. We need to be as energy independent as possible. So whoever, whether it's Joe Biden or anybody else that steps into those shoes of the president of the United States, from the Democratic side or the Republican side, Donald Trump versus Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or whatever, they've got to support energy. And I'm not saying they have to subsidize it more. Many of us who invest will do that subsidy. We don't need the government to subsidize energy, but we need them to get out of the way. And that's one of the things that I fault Joe Biden for, is that, fossil fuels are one of many fuel elements that we need. It can't all be wind. It can't be all geothermal, can't be all solar, and it can't be all nuclear. We need to have coal, and we need to have fracking and various ways to extract energy out of the earth. And I think he's been an impediment to that rather than supportive of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to answer Danielle pretty plaintively. I think that he has to come out of the race, and I'll make a prediction that he's out of the race by the end of the month, because you can't have people like George Clooney saying that he's a zombie, and then they keep him in the race, and then what are these guys then going to say? Oh, he's not a zombie? And also, listen, let me put this in the Democrats' face for a second, and I'm going to totally disregard my personal feelings for Mr. Trump and my political opinions. But if the Democrats feel that Mr. Trump, President Trump, is an existential danger to the democracy, what are they doing exactly?
Yep.
To me, John, the Democrats have done Trump's service. If you said to me, I'm a Democratic operative and I want Donald Trump to win, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie to the media, lie to the donors about the coherence and the mental acuity of President Biden. I'm then going to put him in a debate for 90 minutes. I'm going to underhydrate him so he can barely speak with a very soft, disjointed voice. And I'm going to get him demolished by the other candidate. And then I'm going to leave him hanging where we have this mismatch of birds picking at the carcass of Joe Biden. And so I can't even believe that these people are doing this. But
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page with you, Anthony. You can't, on the one hand, say that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy and then hide all of the issues that have been plaguing this president
right.
probably for the last several years.
So my
Again,
producer's yelling.
no,
My producer's
no,
yelling at me because she likes me, and she's saying, "You and John are investors. Get off of politics." Okay, so we're going to
all
get
right.
off of politics. Danielle from
We
Long
were
Island.
answering the question. That's all.
Yeah, no, of course, I know. Fed rate cuts. We'll see.
Mhm.
Will we see Fed rate cuts? Will we see more? Alex from Cincinnati. I think we will. And John, I'm just going to start. I think the Fed's going to cut rates, and I think they're behind the curve right now. If I just look at the data, and I understand why they want to be behind the curve because they were wrong in the beginning of this whole cycle. But I think they've got to cut rates. You may even see a 50 basis point cut, one of these cuts going forward. Maybe not won't be the first cut, but they may have to cut faster than they originally anticipated.
Yep, I agree with you, Anthony. I was looking at the Chinese banks because Kyle Bass was tweeting this out. Chinese banks, 340% of their GDP is the debt that these guys have. That is not sustainable. They are virtually upside down. US banks, it's 1%, folks, by the way, which is why we've got the safest, best banks in the world, I believe. And yes, you're welcome, Jamie Dimon. But I would say, Anthony, that we will see rate cuts. It's up to 88% now, according to the CME tool, which is based on, as we like to say, people putting their money where their mouth is. The Merck doesn't poll its members. The Merck looks at how many trillions of dollars are going into various levels of, whether it's the 3 month, the 2 year, the 5 year, the 10 year, the 20 year, the 30 year. They look at all of that to say, this is how the money is going right now. And because of the 3% CPI that we saw today, again, that's 3% up, folks. A lot of people said, well, it was down. No, it's up 3%. It was, the issue is we have to attack inflation, yes, but we don't want to do it at the expense of employment. And right now, we need to get people back working in the housing sector that aren't working in the housing sector because at 7% mortgages, there's precious little they can do. You drop them 50 basis points, like Anthony just said, you're going to see a much more robust and very active housing market. It doesn't just impact BLDR and Home Depot and Lowe's. It impacts the biggest employers in America. So I expect to see that in September, Anthony.
We agree. Let's see if we got another question here. You had 10,000 to invest in either gold or Bitcoin. Which would you choose? Jess from Newington, Connecticut.
I would choose Bitcoin at
Okay,
this level. At
so
this level. How about you?
I like gold, so I don't want to be in any way dissuasive of gold.
Nope.
But I would also choose Bitcoin because I do think that gold is our store of value and Bitcoin is our emerging store of value, and I think it can trade at the market capitalization of gold. So I'm going to
Yep.
go with Bitcoin on that. Okay. Anthony, would you take on John in a game of tackle football? This is Mike and Dave from the control room. So I would take on John in the type of football that we used to play in the high school cafeteria where we bent the straw into a square
And
and
then,
we pushed it. Yeah, and we pushed it towards each other. That is about the extent of football that I would like to play with Jon Najarian. However, if we were going to do a Thanksgiving pickup football game, Jon Najarian would be my first draft choice.
oh, I'm flattered. I
How's
would
that?
be. And I would show up if you were going to have
Yeah,
that
I
game.
would just want you to murder all my next door neighbors, John. Okay, that would be great for me. But first of all, congratulations on the partnership with Grant Cardone
Thank
and
you,
your
sir.
brother and your business, Market Rebellion. Thank you so much for joining us here on Speak Up, and I hope to have you back on. I know you're doing more with the Wealthy on Network, so we're all grateful here at Wealthion for your contributions. And
Oh, thank you, sir. Yep.
hopefully we get a chance to see each other soon.
We'll be doing more together, Anthony, I'm sure. And again, thank you. Thanks to all the folks in the studio for this, and to Steve Feldman and Rohit and all the great folks at Wealthion. Thumbs up, everybody.
All right. God bless. We'll see you soon, Jon. Thank you again.
Thank you.
If you like this video, you'll like this video as well. Check it out.